Hey folks, this is Pigohan on the North American server, and this is the Tier 4 Japanese battleship, the Myogi. The map is Archipelago. It is standard battle, and this is patch 9.0. Since my original Myogi review back in 2017, the ship has gotten a couple of buffs, but the one I think is the most important is the 2 Sigma buff. It used to be that at max range you basically couldn't hit anything with the Myogi, and that's even before you tried to put up the spotter plane. But with the 2 Sigma buff, it's actually not too bad. If anything, I would say that it's brought the overall accuracy of the Myogi up from maybe below average to slightly above average. If you look at that shot on the Ishizuchi, admittedly he was going slowly, but that was a 20-kilometer snipe for 6850, which is insane for a tier 4 ship. Now, this is a 3CV game, which is not that uncommon at tier 4, but either way, I'm kind of taking grudge shots at the Langleys instead of shooting at more useful things. At the same time, you can see that even though the Langley was moving slow, we got a Citadel on him from close to 20 kilometers. And with the pre-buff Myogi, you just wouldn't see those kind of shots hit. At the same time, the Myogi maintains all of the attributes that I felt made her strong before, which are the very high speed and very good ship and turret handling characteristics for tier 4. The Ishizuchi shells were an easy dodge, and we chunked him back for another 4K. Now that there's no CVs in sight, I'm going to try to shoot at the Phoenix, who's going broadside here. These are actually not the best shots for the Myogi. On a thinly armored target like the Phoenix, you're very likely to overpen if he's broadside, although in this case he turned in as well, which didn't help. I split my fire between the Langley and the Phoenix because I think the Phoenix is pretty screwed given what he's doing, and the Langley is a bigger threat in the long run. That being said, we finally get a lucky shot on the Phoenix, and that takes him out. I was originally going to hold that position and see if the red team would push on this flank, but it looks like there's a lemming train forming toward our cap, so I'm going to start moving over there. Along the way, I'm going to take a final snipe shot on the Langley before I change my attention to the broadsiding ships closer to the cap. One of the other buffs that they gave the Myogi is a small increase in the penetration of the guns. I think they made it the same as that of the Congo, and it was a little bit worse before. This doesn't usually help that much. The ship tends to overpen more than it can't penetrate, especially on things like the Phoenix. But you'll see here on the Gangut, I think the penetration actually helped in that scenario. I don't think those may not have made it through to the Citadel without the penetration buff. As long as this guy is broadsiding me, I'm going to keep taking shots at him, and I also want to put a little bit of pressure on the cap such that the enemy DDs are less inclined to go in. Again, you can see the accuracy of shot on the Gangut. He would not be dead with the pre-buffed Myogi. Wyoming moving really slowly here, but he is also broadside, so I'm just going to start working on him. That's another Citadel that may not have gone through without the penetration buff. Gonna start turning out here because I am coming under a little bit of fire, but in the meantime, just gonna keep working on the Wyoming, and there's another Citadel, and this guy just doesn't learn. That's the high caliber at 110,000, and you gotta realize we've got 110,000 with 9 Citadels at 730 in the Myogi. This is a top tier game, but that's crazy. The Wyoming goes down, and it already feels like we're in the cleanup phase for this game, though in theory they could come back while being down 3 ships. The most amazing part of this game is that all 3 of the carriers push up toward islands instead of running away, and this gives a huge opportunity to farm damage, although that was really not a good shot. I'm using the spotter plane in order to try to better gauge the location of the CV around the island, less than extend the range, but it's screwing up my aim, and I'm not really getting that good of hits. The other thing I'm doing is just beelining toward the east in order to actually be able to hit some of these CVs that are camped on the east-ish side of these islands. And again, I mentioned this in my original Myogi review. The speed of the Myogi is very good for being able to access locations that other tier 4 battleships would struggle to reach because they're so slow. Going to start working on the stationary Kaiser now, but I'm not really going to get any good hits on him either. The problem here is that as I go toward the east, the Kaiser starts angling more toward me, and the shots are just going to get worse. So I try to mitigate this by shooting at the Langley instead, but eventually the Langley is going to melt, and I have to work on the Kaiser again, and it's just a matter of, well, should I keep shooting the Kaiser as he gets more angled, or should I have cut back in, lose some salvos on the back turrets in order to have a better angle in the future? And this is just one of the downsides to having the AXY turret arrangement. On the flip side, it's better for you when you're making left and right switches going away from enemy ships. The Langley manages to speed juke this shot somehow, and I think it's a combination of him moving backward, but the island moving toward the right. Either way, I just get a couple overpens, and that's pretty much the last damage I'm getting in this game. The Kaiser burns down, and I'm not hitting any of the DDs, so I'm just going to skip to the results screen. Now, I recorded this game not just to showcase the new Myogi, but also because the 142,000 is the 34th highest recorded damage for the Myogi in NA, and on top of that, this was a 3CV game. That is a bit of a double-edged sword, because on one hand you need the HP to go around, but they could also really screw with your game. Still, a very high damage game like this is largely dependent on luck, but the buffs for the Myogi really helped as well. My previous highest damage was probably 100,000, just like 40% less. On that note, this is the end of the video, so have a nice day.